Hey everyone, good morning, good morning. We are yet again live on Sister Holds My Hand, the Art of Letting Go series. I'm really excited and thank you guys for all of the feedback last week. It was such a great event. A number of persons were literally saying how much they thoroughly and truly enjoyed the series. And so this morning, I wanted to remind you that you must like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that the next time we become live, you are the first to see this. This morning, I'm joined again by my amazing co host and a sister. As a matter of fact, the guru, I called her, of these series, and that's Audrey Josephs. So, Audrey, welcome again to Sister Hold My Hand, where we literally have meaningful conversation with women, literally focus on issues and matters that women sometimes are so not able to talk about, whether they're taboo, they're uncomfortable. We literally delve deep into them and we are never afraid. And so, those of you who are watching on the replay or even on the live, sit back, relax, get your cuppa ready because this morning it is going to be a great conversation. My name is Dr. Ava Eagle Brown, and of course, some of you already know I'm the founder of Sisterhold My Hand, and I'm here with one of my strongest, longest forming sister, and that is Audrey Joseph. Audrey, welcome to the second conversation in the series. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm great, as good as one allows themselves to be. You know
Thank
my
you.
saying.
Now, I must nip in that you're the forgiveness godmother, aka FGM. Is that what you are?
The T,
T
was it? The F
TFG
G
or
T F
TFG.
G.
Love it. Awesome. So, Audrey, this morning we're gonna jump right in because at the last time we did this, a lot of persons actually were just really touched, moved, and inspired. I know that people were watching it as far as Atlanta. I know that because I get the emails. I know that because I get the conversations. And we are going to be digging deep this morning into one of the conversations that is really and truly powerful, and one that a number of persons actually need to hear. We're talking about self forgiveness. Talk me through why this is important or what does it even mean? Because I know what it means, but so does some people, but a lot of people don't really understand and even know what it is to forgive yourself. Is it even necessary? Is there such a thing? Help us understand that and unpack that.
Okay, yeah. I always start at the top with that, define the self. And usually people are like, what do I have to forgive myself for? Especially if things have been done to them. And for me, um, as you know my journey, because you were my book coach, you know that there were a lot of things I'd gone through, and I never ever considered about self-forgiveness until I arrived at that place. And for me, the self-forgiveness was because I believed the lies. I grew up being told that I was never going to be amount to anything. I was never going to be this. And I guess it was forgive yourself for the lies that you've been told as well, because I never felt worthy. I never
Mm-hmm.
felt good enough. And the more I felt that was the more that that experience became more and more real.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd gone around feeling, well, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. My hair's not long enough. I'm not enough. And I
Mm-hmm.
believed that. And those are the first things that I had to forgive myself for, to
Mm-hmm.
release myself, to let myself off the hook.
So literally letting yourself off the hook, literally forgiving yourself, literally understanding that before you can even start forgiving anybody, you have to be able to understand how to forgive yourself. Because how do you serve from an empty cup? I just don't think that's very possible. And so forgiveness starts with self. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Forgiveness starts with self. Would I be correct in thinking that?
You know what it is? It's all about self-love. And in
Mm,
order to start loving yourself, you have to release yourselves of the things that you said to yourself, the unconscious conversations that you've held, the way you view yourself, the way you think the world has viewed you. You have to forgive yourself for all of those things. And forgiving yourself is not so much about an external process, but it's about loving on yourself, actually seeing you, because for a long time when I looked in a mirror, I didn't see me in my majesty, in my beauty, in my divine self. So for me, forgiving yourself, releasing yourself internally is when you start to see your inner beauty, where you start to not be the caterpillar any longer, but you become the butterfly.
I love that. Do you know, one of the things that I have done in my lifetime is to have chosen poor relationships. And I can put my hand up on that. And I've had to self-forgive. And that took me on an inward journey. And I'm still going through it. I still do that because now when I meet guys and I get to know that, I quickly see the inner that's not comfortable. I know now how to run. But there was a time when I couldn't do that. And I had to come to a realization that I had to self-forgive. And that took me on an inward journey that began with myself. I had to start acknowledging my mistakes and my shortcomings and understand the circumstances around them. But also I was able to find ways to release it. But I had to go back and look at what relationships looked like for me growing up. What were my relationships like with men? And the first man in my life that was meant to show me how a man should treat me had abused me. So I had to literally peel back the layers and go back there. And then I had to find ways to release myself from the burden and the guilt of the resentment I felt actually around this relationship situation. And so some of the things I did, Audrey, was I had to self-reflect. I had to really take the time to understand what led me to some of these decisions. Why was I needy when it came to relationship? What was my motivation? I wanted to be loved. And the person who was meant to love me in a male figure was my father, and he didn't. Taught me through how difficult it can be for us to do the inner acknowledgement and the inner self journey of accepting our shortcomings, of accepting, because it's difficult, Audrey. Let's face it. Not many people find it comfortable discussing or putting the mirror towards themselves.
It's a really deep conversation. And the thing is, if you've never ever thought about it from that place, you will never understand why you attract bad relationships, bad friendships. You attract so many things when you think you're comfortable. And I always say, when you start with self-love, that self brings self-confidence. It brings so many other self, brings their friends, all the positive aspects, self-esteem, self this. When you are in your low judgment, what happens is that too brings self, and it comes from self-judgment, lack of self-confidence. It's all of those. So there's one that is up and there's one that brings you down. And if you've never considered the foundation of self-love is self-forgiveness, you will never understand it from that place. And maybe this is going to be the first time a lot of people are hearing this, because you're thinking, why is my life in chaos? Why do friends betray me? Why have I chosen the wrong relationships? And it could well start from the place where a lot of people never look, which is self-forgiveness, which is foundation. And it's not a topic that people delve into very often, if ever they think about it. And so, some people walk around and they're saying, I'm confident, but they have no self-love. And what happens is their word confidence is actually arrogance. It can become arrogant. And so it's not really, sometimes we don't understand the definition of the words that we use, but self-love, because it's not loving to beat up on yourself. It's not loving to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm ugly, because there's always something beautiful about you. And you always have to remember your beauty starts from inside out.
I love that. I just think about a topic that you and I were talking about before we came onto this conversation. And I can't help but thinking that people who are narcissistic cannot self-reflect, cannot do self-forgiveness because they struggle with self-reflection and they find it difficult to acknowledge and take responsibility for their actions. So those people, unless they are prepared to change, will never get to the point where they get untrapped from the self-guilt and the self-doubt. Self-forgiveness, Audrea, sometimes helps us to heal things that we're going to talk about later, things like womb forgiveness, help us to heal our womb, help us to heal our past. I know we're not going to dig deep into that too much today, but talk me through, because, you know, I always talk about the body keeps score. And I believe a lot of ailments people have today, heart attacks, womb problems, cancers, a lot of them are triggered, I think, from just carrying around too much stuff that we should have released. And so, in terms of the womb for a woman, I know we've talked about this on a previous conversation, but I want to dig a little bit into it today because I think because we're talking about self, the womb is a part of ourself. And when we talk about the womb, which is where I think life is seated, we're not just talking about the physical womb. Let's talk about a little bit of womb self-forgiveness because you cannot talk about womb self-forgiveness without talking about self-forgiveness. Would I be correct in thinking that?
You know, this is such a deep one. There's a queen out there called Queen Afua, her book. She has a book called Angry Vagina. We won't even go into this topic too deeply. But you know, that there, a lot of us have come through angry vaginas.
Mm,
You know, we've come through, and what happens is we are the recipient of that anger. We are
mm,
the recipient of uh, unconscious angry mother. A lot of us,
mm,
no matter how good our moms are and whatever, what have you, sometimes we've come through an angry space and we don't understand it. And hence, that's why I'm saying, you know, we have to break the chain. And it's not just about vagina, but the womb of the mind. We spoke about this before. Sometimes it's the anger, the womb of the mind, because the mind gives birth. You know,
mm,
we create from our minds. And so you, when you talk about forgiveness, it's a whole and complete thing. It's inside out because forgiveness is an inside job. It's not about, you know, external things. It's
mm-hmm.
about an internal job. And I always say forgiveness is an inside job.
Wow. You know, Audrey, I really think that womb healing and angry vagina are just such real things. Because if we have wombs that are not healed, then we're not going to release on certain levels of our being.
Yeah.
And that the healing that we need, we're talking about several healing. We're talking about healing from scar tissues, physical trauma. We're talking about energetic trauma. We're talking about all of those things. We have to heal from past lovers, even.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I don't want to put it up. We have to heal from past lovers because when we take on lovers, we take on energy of several thousand people. You know, the other day I sat down and I thought about sex and relationships and intimacy. And Audrey, when I really looked at it and I really analyzed it, I started trying to forgive because the truth of the matter is when you go to bed with somebody, so I go to bed with John, John goes to bed with me, I take with me all the
Mm,
persons that let us say I slept with my ex before and all he slept with and all he slept with. So I could be going to, John could be coming to bed with 1,000 people,
mm,
right? That's the reality. And then I could be going to bed with another 1,000 from John. So there are 2,000 people in bed in that whole soul connection.
mm, mm. And
And we form those
that's
soul
it.
ties that we have to forgive ourselves from.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of deep seated womb issues. The womb chakra is in trouble.
Yeah. You know, Ava, you're saying this, and I think it was yesterday or the day before I saw research, and it said that women store the DNA of every man that they've ever slept with.
Mhm.
I was like, what? This is something else. But you know, I also want to move back to something that you said about the illnesses that people carry. The illnesses that people carry, it's scientific. It's not Audrey says, it's science. It's science out there that when you hold on to things, it creates certain illnesses within your body. not Audrey says, you know, Harvard Institute, they conducted research, and there are many different universities. You only have to Google it, and you'll find out that these illnesses, a lot of them that people have, a lot of cancers that are turning up, a lot, it's because we never released certain things. And, you
Mm-hmm.
know, if a woman was sexually abused, sometimes that shows up. I'm not saying in every instance, so please
Mm-hmm.
don't, but it shows up as cancer of the womb. It shows up as some form of a cancer. It shows up
Mm-hmm.
as cancer of the breast. It can show up in so many different ways, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But please, people, do the research, because it's not just what Audrey says. It is
Mm-hmm.
out there from, you know, great authorized institutes.
Mm-hmm. So, but also, I spoke in Holland at an event, and the author for the book Womb Keeps Score was there. And when he was done, the body keeps score. When he was done, Audrey, I was so convinced that a lot of the illnesses we're having are as a result of what we carry, the seat of our womb. And not the seat of our physical womb for childbearing, but the seat of the womb of the mind
Mind,
and what
yeah.
we carry there, because there's so much that we carry there. But then, Audrey, when I look at a lot of women who are about their business, not understanding that we have to listen to our wombs.
Mm,
We have to
mm,
start listening to the womb. We have to understand that we have to get into certain rituals of how to cleanse and how to forgive
yeah.
and how to release people from around us that are not good for us. And releasing them doesn't mean that we no longer talk to them, but we have to recompartmentalize people in our lives.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that's part of self-forgiveness, I think.
It
I
is. It
I think
is.
that, and self-love, that you're not good for me.
Self-love. Yeah.
And so whilst I love you and I really do, your energy and what you're projecting to me is not healthy for me. And it's gonna bring me back to a place that I've worked so bloody hard to come from. I have to forgive myself for even not being able to be acutely aware and open enough, and my eyes, my third eyes weren't open enough to see you in the first place. So I have to go back to the drawing board and ask me, where did I miss a step?
Sometimes it's about being gentle with yourself as well, you know,
Yeah.
because you know my conversation. I always say to you, we are either teaching or we are learning, or we are the object of someone else's learning. And for me, you know, I love Jana Van Zandt, and she says we come from one of two places. It doesn't matter what you want to call them beyond that, but one of two places: love or fear,
Mm.
right? And so you can label it and say, okay, there's this, and this, and this, but they come under the heading of
Mm-hmm.
fear or love, just that.
Mm.
And once I learned that, I recognized that people act out of one of those two places, no matter what you want to call the label. You can
Mm-hmm.
spiteful, bitterness, confused, upset, angry, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
emotional, right? But what you need to know as a human being is that it's not loving. You're not loving on you. If you
Mm-hmm.
choose to know something
And go in
from the
it
womb of your mind, and then you
and do
choose to
it.
be in that space,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yes, sometimes we are not we have not caught up with ourselves. We have
Mm-hmm.
not caught up with ourselves, and we have not heard these kind of conversations before to recognize that there is house cleaning within, that we have to
Mm.
clean up some of our messes, you know what I mean, that we let in through the
Mm.
gate because there was no gatekeeper,
Yeah.
because we didn't realize, you know, just be gentle with yourself. There's no reason not to make a start today.
Mm.
You've heard the conversation, you can go in and, you know, I always say for myself, I go in with a torch, searching out, looking for what's hiding in there. You know, oh, I didn't know you were lurking there. And sometimes some situations come just to show you what was hidden within you,
Mm-hmm.
show you what you need to heal from. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes some things come, and I'm grateful. Situations have come in my life even recently. And instead of being angry, you know, I'm realizing that I'm being grateful because it's causing me to live a lot more, live out loud. It's causing me to go inside of myself and seeing what do I need to work on me to be the best version of me. So,
Mm.
so nothing is wasted. Everything
Mm.
serves a purpose.
I love that. I love that. And you're either teaching or learning. I was listening to a podcast the other night, and it was saying that if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, it means that you miss the learning. And I think that I have been guilty of that sometimes, but the older I get, the quicker I am able to pick it up. And I've been more gentle and loving to myself that when I pick it up, I don't care who you are, what you are. I'm now ready to just stand my ground and say, no, it doesn't always mean say yank, but I see you. And sometimes one of the things I've come to learn in self-forgiveness is I have to be proud of me for being able to get to the place where I can watch you, watch me, watch you, and I'm no longer going to step into that pond. And self-forgiveness is transformative and it's a healing thing. And it really involves a lot of acknowledgement. And Audra, if as a child you were never taught to be accountable and to acknowledge mistakes or to accept oneself or to make positive change or how to, because I think we have to teach children the tools, but as adults, even if you were not taught the tools, when you get older, are you willing? Can you see yourself? Can you self-reflect? And so some of the tips I'm going to drop real quickly as we wind this down, really easier conversation than I thought this morning, is to reflect on the situation, take time to reflect on the actions that have led you to feeling or of guilt or regret, and really understand the circumstances and the motivation surrounding these choices. Because I think sometimes there are choices that we make and choices we are forced into that get us to the place that we get to. And the other one is that's really for me is to practice self-compassion, one of your favorites. I say this every time we do this thing. I'm so sorry, my door banged. Is to treat yourself with kindness and understanding. You mentioned that earlier, and remember that everyone makes mistakes and that you're deserving of compassion. Audra, what do you want to add to that?
Last week when I was speaking and you started off with seek some kind of therapy. Seek some kind of therapy. I think the more we understand ourselves and not to be embarrassed about how we are, and sometimes we cannot see ourselves. Sometimes we mistake our behaviors for our personality. And so we don't go and check it out because, in the community, sometimes you hear somebody say, that's just the way I am. That's
Oh,
how I am.
yes.
And the one thing I know is that we need to stop arguing for our limitations. We need to stop fighting people to remain the same. There's nothing wrong with change. Change can be a positive thing, and it's about evolving and not feeling ashamed and not trying to act as if that is not there. We have to be genuine and true. And just someone holds the mirror up to me nowadays, especially now. I'm willing, sometimes I might not like what I see. Sometimes I may feel embarrassed, but it gives me opportunity to know that that's a place that I probably have not even looked at ever and never realized it was there. And let me
Yeah.
actually sit with this feeling and thought. Sometimes you don't have to react in that moment, just sit with things and really say, is that me? And then probably rerun and see how have I behaved, how have I reacted in the past. And you know what? That's probably true about me. And then start the work.
Yes. It's being able to identify and self-reflect and really acknowledge where you're. And sometimes, Audrey, when people show us, sometimes people show us something that's ugly. It's not nice, and we don't really want to accept it, and we don't want to. We don't want to. That's not me. I put on my hair and I look nice, and no, you can't see me in that light. That's not me, and it's uncomfortable. But I've come to realize that even if it means that you're never acknowledged to the person what they've identified, but you can see it in yourself, that's important.
Yeah, that's a
And
win.
then that's a win. Because sometimes our egos are so big, we are not able to. I want to say that we need to learn to forgive in layers because forgiveness is often a gradual process. It's not a quick yank, and it may take time fully to fully forgive yourself. And that's okay. I want everybody to walk away from this conversation understanding it's okay, because self-love is patient and gentle, right? And if we're going to be saying forgiveness, self-forgiveness is self-love, then we have to be patient and allow the healing to unfold in layers, because that's how it really happens. It doesn't just happen in one yang. And so we have to love ourselves. We have to accept ourselves. Self-acceptance. Forgive yourself and be good to yourself requires self-acceptance, Audrey. Wouldn't you agree?
Totally, totally. And things don't just happen overnight. You
They
know, the
don't.
bodybuilder does not get a defined body overnight. They have to work with these resistance. And the more you want a defined muscle is the greater the resistance becomes. So, you're working with heavier weights. But, in order to get to the place where you want to get to, you've got to work. It requires work. And nothing
Awesome.
great, even a plant, nothing. You just got to just allow creator God, whatever you choose to call it, just to work on you. But it's just an open heart and a willingness for change. And you're halfway there.
I think that, and my last words on this is to forgive yourself means that to remind us that we're not perfect and we must show ourselves grace, and that you're still learning every day. You're learning something. Show yourself patience as you navigate this life, as you navigate this journey, and understand that the danger is when you acknowledge these things, when you acknowledge that there's necessity in doing this and you do nothing. I have a lot of patience and love and time and respect for the person who gets to the place where they acknowledge that this is where I'm at. This is ugly. Because some of us don't like to say are ugly, but then how am I going to work on the ugly to get myself to a better transformative place? What's your last take so we can wrap this up? Because I think this is a great conversation.
Oh, goodness, we could keep going, couldn't we? But
We could.
sometimes you see people who are angry. It's because they haven't forgiven themselves, and what do they say? Hurt people hurt people,
Mm-hmm.
but just be gentle with them, just acknowledge that people are in their own pains and they probably have sat with it for, I mean, at my stage now, I'm 60 odd. So knowing a lot of people, great advanced age who have sat with these energies for such a long time that they actually
Mm-hmm.
don't even know where to start.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Audrey, the Forgiveness Godmother. Guys, if you ever want services around forgiveness, please do come and check Audrey out at sisterholdmyhand.com. She offers a wide range, a plateau of services. I'm Dr. Ava Eagle Brown, and thank you so much for watching Sister Hold My Hand, the empowering space where wisdom, strength, and sisterhood is covered. I want you to join us. There's always something happening here every Tuesday, every Sunday. There's always something. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you can actually come and get from us. Please continue to watch us, continue to comment, and grab a cup of positivity. Subscribe again and journey with us on this space as we weave a narrative, as we touch the topics that are taboo and uncomfortable. But our ultimate goal is to encourage you and make sure that the unbreakable bond of sisterhood is upheld. We have a YouTube channel, which we're on right now. We also have a number of spaces on social. We're on LinkedIn. We have a Sister Hold My Hand page, a Sister Hold My Hand group. Look for us, come and subscribe and get involved in the daily conversation on social. We have a Facebook group, and we're also on TikTok, and we're also on Instagram. So thanks again for watching Sister Hold My Hand, and we are so glad. Make sure if this touches you, you subscribe and you comment. Let us know if this is helpful, because we want to be doing content that you want. And I want to thank Audrey, the forgiveness and the art of letting go specialist. This is not my field at all. I'm just tagging along with her. Audrey, thank you for being here again. One more time.
Thank you. Send you all love, light, and upliftment.
Thanks, everyone. Ubuntu. I am because we are. That's what we stand on. Go and self-forgive. Baby steps.